Welcome back, everyone. Today, we are digging into Anthropic's brand new AI model, Claude 4.5 Sonnet. Now, they're calling it the best coding model in the world, which is a huge claim. But the real story here is how it's designed to be so much more than just a tool. It's designed to be a teammate.
So let's just start with a question that gets right to the core of this whole thing. Forget asking an AI to, write a quick function or a paragraph. What if you could hand off an entire, complex project at 5 p.m. and then come back the next morning and find it done? That's the future Anthropic is trying to build.
And this is the number that makes that future possible. 30+ hours. That's how long this AI can stay focused on a single project all on its own. I mean, this isn't just a small spec bump. This is the key breakthrough that completely changes the scale of work we can delegate to an AI.
Okay, let's dive into this first big idea. The move from an AI assistant to a true AI agent. And look, this is more than just a change in words, right? This represents a totally new way of thinking about how we're going to work with artificial intelligence. So we've really got to get our heads around this term agentic AI. Think of it like this. An assistant waits for you to give it the next command, but an agent, you give an agent the overall goal and it figures out the steps, does them, checks its own work, and just keeps going until the job is finished. It's the difference between a task doer and a project owner.
And that insane endurance is what makes this whole agent thing a reality. We're not talking about a small improvement here. A 4x increase in how long it can work means it can now handle workflows that stretch across an entire business day, or even longer. It can run into problems, figure out a new path, and just keep pushing towards the goal without giving up. Okay, so it can work for a long time, but can it actually do the work? Anthropic is making this huge claim, calling it the best coding model in the world. So let's take a look at the hard data they're using to back that up. Now, what's so interesting here is the test itself. The SW Bench isn't some made-up academic test with trick questions. No, it uses real-world software problems pulled straight from GitHub projects. So when you see Claude 4.5 Sonnet hitting a score of 77.2%, what that actually means is it can autonomously solve more than 3/4 of the actual bugs and feature requests that human developers deal with every single day. And this quote from Simon Willison, he just nails the feeling that a lot of the experts with early access are having. See, it's one thing to win on a benchmark, but it's something else entirely for a top researcher to say it just feels better. He even reported that it handled a super complex database refactoring job, and it even generated its own 16-part test suite to make sure it did it right. And this is absolutely crucial. It's not just about spitting out code in a vacuum. To be a real agent, an AI has to be able to use a computer like a person does. Finding files, using different programs, browsing the web. The fact that it's dominating the OS world benchmark and made that huge jump in just 4 months, that's the real foundation of its power as an agent.
Okay, so that's the what. Let's talk about the how. How are developers actually supposed to use all this new power? Well, Anthropic didn't just drop a model on us. They released an entire ecosystem for building this new generation of AI workers.
At the heart of all of this is the new Claude Agent SDK, and it's built around this really simple idea they call the agentic loop. The agent looks at the problem, tries something, checks to see if it worked, and then does it all over again. It just keeps looping until the goal is achieved. And this SDK gives developers the exact same building blocks Anthropic uses to make its own advanced stuff. And to make sure these long-running agents don't just, get lost or forget what they're doing, Anthropic has given developers a whole new toolkit. Checkpoints are basically a save game button for your agent. Context editing lets you tell it, hey, ignore that last bit, focus on this. And the memory API is huge. It's like giving the AI a real long-term memory, which helps it get around the limits of its normal short-term memory.
And the code interpreter, wow, this is a total game changer. The old ones were kind of like fancy calculators, isolated from everything. This new version, it's a full-on development environment. It can go to GitHub, grab a real project, install all the things it needs, and then actually run and test the code. That is a massive leap in how practical it is for real software work.
All right, so we've established it's powerful, but let's look at the bigger picture. How does it stack up in the AI race? Because, it's not working in a vacuum. There's fierce competition, there are real-world budgets, and there's a developer community that, well, let's just say they've seen a lot of hype before.
And boom, right away you see the trade-off. All this performance, it's going to cost you. You can just see it in the numbers. It's noticeably more expensive than its main rival from OpenAI, for both the data you send in and the data you get out.
So every business is going to have to ask itself, is that extra power worth the extra cash?
And this slide really gets to the heart of what developers are saying right now. It's a mixed bag. On one hand, you've got people who are just blown away, calling it faster and way more reliable. But on the other hand, you've got this healthy dose of skepticism. A lot of devs are worried about a bait and switch, where the amazing model reviewers get isn't the same one the public gets. And others are reporting that it's just not working well with their specific tools.
And this really puts that whole best model debate into perspective. It looks like Sonnet 4.5 is the new king of the hill for coding. It's a specialist. But if you're looking for the best all-arounder, the model that's good at everything, OpenAI's top model still seems to have the edge. And what this really tells us is that we're moving away from a one AI to rule them all world. It's becoming all about using the right tool for the right job.
Okay, for our last section, let's zoom out a bit, because what Anthropic is hinting at here, it goes way beyond just being a better coder. They are painting a picture of a really radical new future for how we interact with computers.
And to really hammer this point home, they did something kind of wild. For just 5 days, they let a select group of users get their hands on a secret experiment, something that points to a pretty wild new future. So get this, forget about writing code to make an app. With this thing called Imagine with Claude, you just describe an app and the AI builds it for you right there on the screen in real time. In one demo, a user just said, "Imagine William Shakespeare's computer," and poof, a whole graphical user interface for a fake operating system just appears. You could click on things and it would generate new screens and features as you went. That's not just an evolution, that's a revolution in how we create things. But okay, let's bring it back to today. Even without those sci-fi demos, Sonnet 4.5 is already being put to work in some incredibly complex and serious fields. We're talking finance, where it's finding insights for high-stakes investments. Cybersecurity, where it can find and fix vulnerabilities all by itself. Even in the legal world, where it can analyze massive, complicated cases. Which of course brings us back to the biggest question of all. If you have an AI coworker that can grind away on a tough problem for 30 hours straight, what's your job now? Suddenly, the work might be less about the nitty-gritty of writing code and more about being the big-picture thinker, the architect, the creative director for your team of tireless AI agents. And that's the profound change Claude 4.5 Sonnet really represents.